Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you decided to click on this video today. Maybe you're here because the title caught your eye, or maybe you're searching for something a little spark, a nudge, a reason to keep going when things feel tough. Wherever you are right now, I want you to pause for just a second. Take a deep breath. Let it out. I'm going to ask you to do something for me. I know life is busy. I know your mind might be racing with 1,000 things: work, family, bills, dreams that feel too far away. But for the next 15 to 20 minutes, I want you to be here with me because I have a story to tell you. It's a long one, but I promise you, every single word is worth it. This isn't just a story about someone else. It's a story about you. It's about the voice inside your head that tells you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not ready. And it's about the even quieter voice, the one we're going to find together, that whispers, "But what if I try?" So, get comfortable. Put your phone down if you can. Just listen. I promise by the end of this, you'll see something in yourself that you might have forgotten was there. Let's begin. Our story takes place in the bustling, chaotic, and indifferent city of Mumbai, India. It's a city of dreams and a city of disappointments. And in the heart of this city, in a cramped chawl, a narrow tenement building where families live in rooms the size of a parking space, lived a young man named Arjun. Arjun was 24 years old. He lived with his mother, his younger sister, and the ghost of his father, who had passed away 5 years earlier. Their world was a single room, 2 beds, a tiny cooking area, a shared bathroom down the hall, and a single window that looked out onto a wall just 3 feet away. The room was always filled with the sounds of the city, the blare of horns, the chatter of neighbors, the constant, humbling reminder that they were just one small family in a sea of millions. Arjun's father had worked as a driver for a wealthy family. When he died of a sudden heart attack, the small pension barely covered the rent. Arjun had been in his second year of college, studying to be an accountant. That dream died the day his father did. He had to drop out and find work to support his mother and ensure his little sister, Priya, could stay in school. Priya was brilliant. She was their hope. For the last 4 years, Arjun had worked at a small printing press in the crowded bylanes of Dadar. His job was to operate a massive, clanking printing machine. It was monotonous, deafening work. He would feed sheets of paper into the roaring beast for 10, sometimes 12 hours a day, breathing in the thick smell of ink and the suffocating heat. His hands were perpetually stained with ink, his clothes always smelled of paper dust, and his spirit felt as worn down as the concrete floor he stood on. His boss, Mr. Sharma, was a portly man with a thick mustache and a permanently sour expression. He saw Arjun not as a person, but as a pair of hands. "Arjun, faster! The order is for tomorrow," he would bark, his voice cutting through the machine's roar. The pay was meager. At the end of the month, after paying for the room, for Priya's school fees, and for the most basic food, there was nothing left. Nothing for new clothes, nothing for a movie, nothing for a future. Every evening, Arjun would make the long, crowded train journey home. He'd stand in the pack compartment, squashed between 1,000 other tired souls, holding onto a strap, his body aching. And every evening, as the train rumbled through the darkening city, he would pass by the glittering high-rises of South Mumbai. He'd see the lights in the windows, warm and inviting. He'd imagine families sitting down to dinner, children doing their homework in air-conditioned rooms. He'd see the billboards advertising management courses, tech startups, holidays in Switzerland. It was another world, a world that seemed as far away as the moon. One evening, he came home to find his mother sitting on the bed, her face pale and drawn. Priya was beside her, holding her hand, her eyes red from crying. "What happened, Ma?" Arjun asked, his heart already sinking. His mother held out a piece of paper. It was a letter from the landlord. Their rent was being increased. It was a small amount by city standards, but for them, it was a catastrophe. It was more than Arjun earned in a week. That night, Arjun couldn't sleep. He lay on his thin mattress, listening to the rhythmic breathing of his mother and sister. The weight on his chest was unbearable. It wasn't just the rent, it was everything. It was the accumulated weight of 4 years of hopelessness. He felt like he was drowning, not in water, but in a thick, black tar of circumstance. He was trapped. He was 24 years old and his life was already over. The next day at the press, his despair turned into a numb, mechanical routine. He was feeding the machine when a sheet of paper jammed. He reached in to clear it, his mind a million miles away, and his hand slipped. The machine, indifferent to his pain, caught his finger. He screamed. The pain was searing, white hot. He yanked his hand back and saw his finger, bloodied and torn. The nail was almost completely ripped off. Mr. Sharma came running, not to help, but to yell, "Clumsy fool! Do you know how much that downtime costs me? Get out! Go to the clinic, and it's coming out of your pay." At the small government clinic, a tired-looking doctor bandaged his hand. As Arjun sat on a plastic chair, waiting for the painkillers, he noticed a young man sitting opposite him. He was about his age, but he looked different. He was dressed simply, but his eyes were bright. He was sketching on a small notepad with intense concentration. He was drawing the people in the waiting room. An old woman with a wrinkled face, a crying child, a man sleeping on a bench. His pencil moved with a graceful, almost magical speed, capturing not just their likeness, but their emotion. Arjun stared, mesmerized. The young man looked up and caught him watching. He smiled. "Sorry," Arjun mumbled, embarrassed. "It's just that's really good." The young man, whose name was Rohan, shrugged. "It's just practice. It's what I do." He explained that he was an artist. He didn't have a gallery or sell paintings for lakhs of rupees. He worked at a small chai stall in the mornings, and in the afternoons he drew. He drew people in trains, on the streets, in clinics. He sold his small sketches to tourists for 100 rupees each. It wasn't much, he said, but it was his. Arjun looked at his own ink-stained, bandaged hand. An image flashed in his mind, not of a person, but of the machine at the press. He saw its gears, its levers, the way the light fell on its rusty surface. He saw it not as an object of drudgery, but as a subject. He had never drawn anything in his life, but in that moment a tiny, insane spark flickered to life. He bought a cheap notebook and a pencil on his way home. That night, while his mother and sister slept, he sat by the dim light of the single bulb and tried to draw the machine. His first attempts were terrible, childish scribbles. The perspective was all wrong. The gears looked like lopsided wheels. He almost threw the notebook away. Asterisk, this is stupid. Asterisk, he thought. Asterisk, you're a press worker, not an artist. Asterisk. But the next day, on his lunch break, he didn't sit with the other workers. He sat in a corner of the press and tried again. He looked at the machine differently now. He noticed how the light from the grimy window created deep shadows. He saw the texture of the rust, the way the ink had stained the feeder in a permanent rainbow. He drew slowly, carefully. It still wasn't good, but it was a little better than the first one. This became his secret, his rebellion. Every day, for a few stolen minutes, he would draw. He drew the pile of paper, the stack of finished posters, the water bottle on Mr. Sharma's desk. He drew the faces of the other workers during their tea break. His notebook filled with clumsy, earnest sketches. His bandaged hand made it painful to hold the pencil for long, but he didn't care. For the first time in 4 years, he felt something other than despair. He felt present. He felt alive. One Sunday, his only day off, he took his notebook and sat on the steps of a temple in his neighborhood. He started to draw the temple's ancient, ornately carved pillar. He was so absorbed that he didn't notice an old man stop to watch him. The man watched for a long time. When Arjun finally looked up, the man spoke. His voice was soft but firm. "You have the eyes of a seeker," the old man said, "but your hand is still a prisoner." Arjun was taken aback. "I'm just learning, sir." "Learning is the path," the old man said. He pointed a gnarled finger at the sketch. "You are trying to draw what you think the pillar looks like. A pillar is straight, it is round, but that is not what you see. You must draw what you see. The light, the shadow, the shape of the space between the carvings. Don't draw the object, draw your experience of the object." The old man smiled and walked away, disappearing into the crowd, leaving Arjun stunned. It was as if a veil had been lifted from his eyes. He looked back at the pillar. He didn't see a stone pillar anymore. He saw a dance of light and shadow. He saw texture. He saw age. He started again. He threw away everything he thought he knew and just tried to capture what his eyes were actually seeing. The line that emerged was hesitant, but it was true. Weeks turned into months. Arjun's finger healed, leaving a small, permanent scar, a reminder of the day everything changed. His secret notebook was now full. He had filled 3 more. His drawings were no longer clumsy. They had a raw, honest power to them. He drew the cramped chawl, his mother's tired hands, his sister studying under the dim light, the view from his window of the dirty wall. He drew his world not as he wished it was, but as it was. And in drawing it, he stopped feeling like a victim of it. He became its chronicler. One evening, Priya found his latest notebook. She was flipping through it, her eyes wide. "Arjun, did you do these?" she whispered, awe in her voice. He nodded, embarrassed. "Baya, they're beautiful. They're sad, but they're beautiful. You have to show someone." The idea was terrifying. Show them to whom? He was no one. A press worker. Who would care about his drawings of a dirty chawl? But a few weeks later, fate intervened. He saw a small poster on a telephone pole. It was an advertisement for a local art competition organized by a small community center in Bandra. The theme was Mumbai, a portrait of my city. The first prize was 5,000 rupees. 5,000 rupees. It was more than 2 months of his salary. His heart pounded. He thought about the rent. He thought about his mother's worried face. He thought about Priya's new school books they couldn't afford. He decided to enter. He didn't draw a glamorous skyline or famous monument. He drew the view from his train window, not the high-rises, but the chawls that lined the tracks. He drew the endless rows of windows, each one a tiny, separate world. On each window, with painstaking detail, he drew the signs of life inside: a shirt hanging to dry, a woman cooking, a child waving at the passing train. He called it 1,000 windows. The day of the competition, he took his drawing, wrapped in an old newspaper, and traveled to the community center in Bandra. The room was full of art students with expensive portfolios, carrying fancy canvases. They looked at Arjun, with his faded shirt and ink-stained hands, and his drawing wrapped in newspaper, with barely concealed to stain. He felt small. He felt like a fraud. He almost turned and left, but he thought of the old man at the temple. Draw what you see. Draw your experience. He had done that. He placed his drawing among the others and left quickly, not wanting to see the judgment in their eyes. He didn't expect to win. He tried to forget about it. A week passed. Then, on a sweltering Thursday afternoon, his mother came running into the press, waving a letter. Her face was a mess of tears and joy. "Arjun, Arjun, you got a letter from the art center. You won first place." Mr. Sharma's jaw dropped. The other workers crowded around. The next week, Arjun had to go to the center for the prize ceremony. A small, graying man with kind eyes, who turned out to be a famous art critic for a major newspaper, approached him. He held Arjun's drawing. "Young man," he said, his voice sincere, "I have been judging these competitions for 20 years. I have seen a lot of technique. I have seen a lot of pretty pictures. But this has soul. You have captured the truth of this city, the struggle and the resilience, all in one frame. Where did you learn to draw like this?" Arjun thought of the deafening printing press, the cramped train, the tiny room, the old man at the temple, and the deep, black despair that had almost swallowed him whole. "I learned," he said slowly, "by not giving up." The critic didn't just give him the prize money. He gave him something more valuable. He gave him a card. "Come and see me next week. We need to talk." That meeting changed everything. The critic introduced Arjun to the owner of a small gallery, who was captivated by his work. They decided to give him a show. It was a small show, just 10 drawings, in a tiny corner of the gallery. But on the opening night, people came. They were drawn to the raw honesty of his art. They saw their own struggles in his drawings of the chawl. They saw their own mothers in his drawing of a woman praying. They saw their own city in 1,000 windows. A journalist from a national daily wrote a feature on him, the press worker who painted his world. The story went viral. People were moved by his journey. Suddenly, people wanted to buy his drawings. They offered him commissions. A publisher asked him to illustrate a book of Mumbai poems. He was able to quit his job at the printing press. He was able to move his family into a small, clean flat with 2 rooms and a window that actually had a view of the sky. He was able to put Priya through the best college in the city. But the most important thing didn't change. Arjun still got up early every morning. He still took out his notebook. He still drew. He drew his new window. He drew his mother, who now had less worry in her eyes. He drew Priya with her college books. He drew the city not from a distance, but from within it. He knew that the machine, the despair, the old life, it was all part of him. It was the soil from which his art grew. It was the struggle that gave his work its depth. Years later, a young man from his old chawl came to see him. He was lost, he said. He worked at a different factory now. He felt like there was no way out. He looked at Arjun's drawings on the wall, not the new, expensive ones, but the old, faded ones from his first notebook, which he had framed and hung in his study. "How did you do it, Arjun Bhai?" the young man asked, his voice full of the same despair Arjun had once known. Arjun looked at his hands. They were still strong, but no longer stained with ink. He thought of the long train rides, the deafening machine, the moment of pain when his finger was crushed, and the tiny spark that ignited in a government clinic waiting room. "I didn't do anything special," Arjun said. "I just did one thing. I refused to let the noise of the world drown out the quiet voice inside me. That voice that said, try. That voice that said, draw. It's very quiet. The world is very loud. But if you listen closely, if you protect that tiny flame, it can light your way through the darkest tunnel." It wasn't a sudden change. It was one sketch, then another, and another. It was 1,000 sketches before I found my one window. And that, my friend, is the end of Arjun's story. But it's not the end of yours. Think about your own life. What is the printing press in your life? What is the noise, the drudgery, the thing that feels like it's crushing your spirit? And what is that quiet voice telling you to do? Is it to write, to paint, to start a business, to go back to school, to have a difficult conversation, to just get through one more day? Arjun's story is proof that the human spirit is incredibly resilient. It shows that the very things that weigh us down, our struggles, our environment, our pain, can become the foundation for our greatest work. The key is to find that one small thing, that one spark of passion or interest, and fan it into a flame, one tiny breath at a time. It won't happen overnight. It will be scary. People will doubt you. You will doubt yourself. But you just have to start. Draw your version of the pillar. Write your version of the story. Just start. If this story touched you, if it sparked something in you, I have a small favor to ask. A request, really. First, if you know someone who needs to hear this, a friend who's going through a tough time, a family member who's forgotten their own strength, please share this story with them. You never know, your simple act of sharing could be the spark they need. Click the share button right now. Be that light for someone. Second, if you found value in this, if it made you think or feel, please hit that like button. It's a small thing, but it tells me that these stories matter, that they're reaching people. It fuels me to keep creating content like this for you. And finally, if you want more stories of hope, resilience, and the incredible power of the human heart, please subscribe to this channel. Join our community. We're all on a journey together, and I'd be honored to have you along for the ride. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Now, go find your quiet voice. And when you do, listen to it. It knows the way. Take care. I'll see you in the next story.